Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Safe Room. I am your host, Sean Williams, and we are back now. I did take a week off, and honestly, like that was had to do with a little issues with booking the guests and reservations availability. But we're back now, and we are here with Abena.
Hi, Sean.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably wondering, how do you know Abda? Well, we were literally working together, for the Jada Finch Community Research Partnership, but I also know Abda for doing her own stuff. She has her own brand, Adda Blooms. And first of all, can we just give a round of applause? Just doing your thing. Doing your thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the Safe Room.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I had you on last year, and it was me, you, and Farwa. We talked about the project, the Jada Finch Community Research Partnership, and that was such a good time. So I'm like, you know what? I would love to have Abida back to talk about her brand. That's kind of like been my focus, my direction for season 2. So I'm really glad to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. And honestly, I love the work you're doing. I'm proud of you. I've seen your growth, I've seen your work, and it's just fantastic. So keep it up. Keep it coming.
Yeah. Appreciate it so much. So yeah, let's just kind of get into it. Your brand, Adda Blooms. I just want to know, like, what was the inspiration behind that? What made you want to get into, the field of, like, food cultivation, just trying to understand more about, like, the culture that you kind of grew up on.
Yeah. A few years ago, I struggled with a ton of allergies, suddenly became sick. I could not eat fish. I could not eat seafood.
Wow.
There were a lot of foods that I couldn't process. My stomach would hurt and swell if I ate anything with wheat and corn. It just became really bad. And within a year, I was at the hospital for like 4 or 5 times for either food poisoning or food intolerance. I would get like, there were certain foods that I would eat, and suddenly I would get swelling in my face. Like every single pore on my face would inflame.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was really terrible. Yeah. It actually got to the point that I could not be out in the sun. I am someone who was born in Ghana, West Africa. Yes, I was raised in Toronto. I grew up in Toronto, but I was born in Ghana. I'm a Black person. And yet
Of
being in
course.
the sun, right? And you're being in the sun, like I just couldn't be in the sun for too long. Every single pore, on my face would inflame, and it was just my entire face would swell, and I would honestly look like a completely different person. And so I struggled a lot. It was really bad. It really limited how much I could go out. It really had an impact on me. It got to a point that the only thing I could eat was really raw sweet potatoes. And my dad used to boil a lot of herbs for me. So like red clover herbs and all. That's all I could drink just to flush out my system. Anyway, so it became really terrible. And I decided I wanted to learn how to grow my own food, because every single thing I ate, I reacted to. And that's also how I got into being a vegetarian/vegan, because I go back and forth depending on the place and the space that I'm at and what's available. So yeah, I became really particular, and I wanted to learn how to grow my own food. And about 7 years ago, I saw a flyer actually in my email with Black Creek Community Farm, and they were looking for youth farmers. So I applied. I thought, oh my God, this is the best opportunity. I'm not well, sick, like an opportunity in the community, like a 20-minute walk away from where I live, or 20, 30 minutes, just to learn, how to grow my own food. So I applied, I was hired. And for me, I think that was the moment my life changed, right? Like, because being in the city, we're very disconnected from how food grows. We're very disconnected from seeing farms, seeing gardens, like actually seeing a seed, placing the seed in the soil and watching nature do what it does best. We're very disconnected. And so growing food and being with other young people from Jane and Finch that was the moment for me. I'm like, I knew I wanted to be a farmer. But in the same year, I had gotten into my PhD, and I was 25. And I was like, who leaves a PhD to be a farmer? And I'm 25. And how many people get into a PhD at 25? So I was still working at Black Creek Farm because I was the program coordinator for the youth farming program the following year. And then I became interested. I wanted to know what was happening in Ghana around organic agriculture, around food and sustainability. So, fast forward in 2017, I came to Ghana, to the northern part of Ghana, and I connected with a few community organizations to really learn just the context of organic agriculture,
Right.
sustainability, agroecology. And when I came, that's when I realized that a lot of indigenous African foods were dying out, right? Like there's a lot of soybean and a lot of corn, and a lot of wheat. And these are not terrible foods, but they're not people's cultural food. And also a lot of the traditional foods that people were consuming with millet or sorghum was being replaced with corn. And their natural indigenous food is grown organic, but a lot of the wheat and the corn and the soy they were growing with chemicals. And so I was like,
Yeah.
wait,
Wow.
this doesn't look right. I saw a lot of rivers and streams being contaminated. We went to farms and I saw farmers literally mixing chemicals with their hands, spraying without a shirt on. I'm like, did I know the long-term implications of this? It was just wild. It was wild to me. I actually have a report on it. So I decided like I needed to start a business that will create a market for
Right.
indigenous African food. And here I am.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. For the longest time we've been working together for Jada Finch, I did not know that, when it came to you at such a young age, when you ate everything, you had such a reaction to it. That's kind of like hidden to me the first time, and like that's crazy. But I do appreciate how you try to like just find ways to okay, I want to learn more about like which foods are not just like, well, I'll be honest, when it comes to farming, it's like you said, because we live in such an urban setting, you don't see a lot of farming happening. I kid you not, like the only time I heard about Black Creek Community Farm is if I'm taking literally the transit just to head up to York, and I probably see it on my way before I hop out to Pioneer Village Station. And I'm like, wait, there's a farm back there? I'm like, it literally looks like just a bunch of bushes and trees behind. Like you don't even see what's going on.
You should drop by. Honestly, it's such a beautiful place, and it's a community space. It's open. You could just drop by and see what's being grown. But I had no choice but to learn how to farm. Like I had a choice, but if you saw my allergic reaction, like imagine seeing someone and every single pore is inflamed, and you can't see their eyes. Their lips are tripled. It was horrible. It was horrible.
But I think it's just amazing, like just your journey from there, just to like where you come now, and like also like going back to like Ghana to learn more about ecological sustainability, because again, I feel like every time I always question like the food that I eat, regardless if it's like, oh, I need to survive, obviously, but it's like I'm always wondering like like there's so many like pesticides and so many things that are not even washed off. Or even like foods that people are like kind of promoting, like, oh, it's good for you. But it's like, y'all even like know half the science. Y'all probably just know it from like a simple standard, but no, actually try to actually go in within the root to actually
exactly. I was working with Building Roots. It's an organization in Toronto that works with schools, and they do community gardens, and everything is grown organic. And they had a garden at York Woods Public School, and I was the coordinator for that garden. And I remember we were growing potatoes, and I asked the children, where do fries come from? And kids said McDonald's. Like kids couldn't even connect fries with potatoes because, right? And the thing is, a lot of potatoes and a lot of fries is actually used corn. It's actually 80%, 90% corn. It's actually not even potatoes that are used for fries. And so when people taste the really stale fries with a lot of sodium in it from whatever brand or whatever fast food restaurant, it's harder for them to eat the actual potatoes because it tastes so different, right? And when kids said that, I was like, wow, like children, we have a garden at the back of their school, and yet they're still disconnected from what actually fries look like. Like, sorry, from where fries come from, which is
like
potatoes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I feel like you could expect an answer like that, but I mean, come on.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
It's
Yep.
like, you know, I
Yep.
mean, take a step back. You don't have
Yep.
to rush into it. But no, I totally agree with you. Like, there's so many like stuff that we eat that people don't know, like where it come, whether it's like fries or even like, you know, patties for like burgers as well. People like, oh, it's coming from like, you know, like it's all natural. And trust me, like not all of it's natural,
No.
not all of it.
Exactly.
So like
Yeah.
it really is mind boggling to like just see how like food is kind of like being shaped in different ways where like, you know, we're not getting that rich texture anymore within our foods. Like a lot of it is processed in a
Hmm.
factory, and you know, you don't even wonder like how all this stuff is being jammed in. Like I kid you not, sometimes if I do have the time, I might read like the ingredients on something, and it's just like I'm seeing all this like high chlorified number 3. It's just like it's like
Like,
it
what
hurts
is,
my brain.
yes, it does. And I think what's even disturbing, like what brought me to Ghana this time around, um, it's really how food is being shifted away from farmers to the lab, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just before the Green Revolution, and the Green Revolution doesn't mean sustainability or green; it just means like the introduction of chemicals. So after World War II, a lot of the companies didn't know what to do with the government, or etc. Didn't know what to do with a lot of the chemicals, and so a lot of them were really repackaged as agrochemicals and used to kill weedicides and pesticides, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But so that was a part of the Green Revolution, which is really looking at how can we feed more people more food, right? But aside from how can we feed people more food, how can we feed people genetically modified food? It was really the introduction of GMO, the introduction of agrochemicals. Well, the first GMO seed, I'll say, came to market in around 1997, actually, which was the
Yeah.
GMO corn, followed by wheat. That took 10 years to formulate, etc. But the Green
Mm-hmm.
Revolution was really around that introduction of chemicals into farms, and also the shift from farmers, the slow shift from farmers being in charge of our food systems to scientists being in charge of our food systems, right? Which is really scary, because how can someone create food in a lab, right? Like, food has a relationship with the human body, right?
Right.
When
Yeah.
you eat particular foods, certain foods have certain functions and certain
Mm-hmm.
benefits for the human body. There is a relationship with the soil, with the earth, with the sun, in how
Yeah.
food grows. And you can't get the same nutrition, even that you create in a lab, than what you would get if you grow food in the soil. And for me, the shift away from farmers to scientists in a lab creating and manipulating our food was really scary, because look at how many children in North America have allergies, right? Allergies to peanuts. Why do that
Mm-hmm.
many children have allergies to peanuts when children in other parts of the world don't have that kind of allergies to peanuts? But if you're modifying a tomato and you're taking the gene from a fish in the coldest part of the water and you're putting that gene in the tomato to make sure that the tomato can really go through a winter, that's not normal, that's not natural, right?
Yeah.
You're cross contaminate, you're bringing two things together that in the natural world would never meet. A tomato and a fish would never meet, right?
Yeah.
There are even genes taken from humans that are put in corn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's research, there's data, right, on all of these things. So for me, it was really scary that years ago people have been able to survive and thrive eating their natural indigenous foods, and we see elders or seniors that have lived for so long. But now a lot of us, like at 25, 26, people are getting stroke, heart attack, people's legs are broken, people can't move, right? We have a lot of anxiety, depression, like just so many
Oh
illnesses
man,
that
it's
are
crazy.
are really connected to food,
Yeah.
really connected to
It
our gut health.
it's a lot, and like, you know, it just shows that like for those people who probably can like adapt to it, it just shows like on their immunity system, because it's like there's so many people who may like eat fast food like frequently, and like nothing would happen to them. You think that, oh, they would like, you would see the effects of it, but usually like their body starts to change, and you know, they kind of get used to it, and then when they try something different, maybe something natural, as like you put it, you know, it's kind of like, you know, like an anti-food, like it's like kind of fighting back, and it's just like what is going on? Like this is the actual stuff that we grow on. Like literally, it's growing from the
Yes.
ground, and it's like somehow your body has now learned to like reject these types of things.
Hmm. Well, I think like just to add to what you said, and it's not to shame anyone for eating junk food. Like people have different socioeconomic situations, right? And some
Right.
people can afford to get, you know, a chicken and a fry or a burger and a fry for their family and their kids, and that's just where they are, and that's fine because we all have different economic circumstances and conditions. But also a lot of it is structural, right? Where certain junk foods in certain communities are placed. Some wealthier communities, you see more like farmers market, you know, and fresh produce and cheaper fresh produce. Whereas in other communities, lower income, you see more junk food, right? And more expensive.
Hmm.
And like fresh produce is actually more expensive. So I think for us, you know, when you're young and you eat unhealthy foods, you may think you're fine, but it's because your body's still growing. And I think that like your liver and your kidney are the detoxification agents in your body, right? Like when you eat junk food, you're detoxing you. So
Hmm.
constantly they're cleaning and cleaning and cleaning you. You're not really okay just because you're not aging significantly, but you're building up allergies, right? One of the ways is that you're building up allergies and you become less tolerant to a lot of things. It can show up in so many ways, right? For a lot of women, the illness can show up in your womb. A lot of it could show up in lack of iron. A lot of it could show up in distress. A lot of it could show up in losing hair. For men, you know, a lot of it could show up in prostate. A lot of it could, you know, cancer. A lot of it in so many different cancers, right? Breast cancer, throat cancer, stomach cancer.
Yeah.
Because food is we eat food for energy. As any human, the purpose of food is to have energy so we can live lives. Period.
Definitely. Of course.
Right?
Of
And it's
course. Period.
important to have right healthy cholesterol and healthy carbs. All of these things are important, but there's a balance, you know. And when you that's when you see a lot of younger people these days have a lot of kidney issues because your kidney just gets strained from having to clean and detox so much. I know I used to drink so much lattes that it got to the point that it actually affected my stomach because and I eat healthy. You can eat healthy and still eat other like not all vegan foods are healthy,
Yeah.
right? Like a
There's always a
vegan
balance.
burger. Exactly. And I got sick because I had so much coffee that when I had to detox, let me tell you, I was like, it was like an addiction
Mm.
because my body was like, where's that coffee? Where's that coffee? Bring me
And
the coffee.
no, it's the same for me. You eat a certain thing, and then like you can just tell, like just from your own standpoint, I'm like, okay, me eating this or
Yes.
me consuming this, I don't feel the same. And then when you stop, you start to see a difference. And like I wonder if it comes to like I know when it comes to like different products and produce and everything, like there's a discussion of like fair trade and everything. Because I know you mentioned how before, based on ecological like standpoint, someone may not be able to like get something that's more natural and they kind of resort to fast food, and that could be like cause of like gentrification too. A lot of like lower income neighborhoods, they're dropping McDonald's, BK's, like Tim Hortons all over the place, and then like
Mm-hmm.
you don't even see none of the like even fast foods that serve at least something a little bit different, to like one thing that like I love myself is like a good burrito bowl, because it has a little mix of like
Mm-hmm.
vegetables and rice and everything. Like the one I can literally think off the head is at York at the university, and like you can't even get delivery on Uber Eats for that. So like then
Mm-hmm.
like I gotta resort to stuff like, okay, what's here? McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
BK,
Mm-hmm.
Tim Hortons,
Mm-hmm.
KFC.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
what is going on?
Yes. And you know, it's insane when you see KFC in Ghana and you're like, wait, what is happening? And not just in the capital. When you see KFC on your way to a village, you're like, stop this. Like, how? Why are you
Yeah.
here? Like, we have real chickens walking, chilling. Like, why are you here selling people breaded chicken dipped in flour and oil? Right? It's just
Wow.
marketing. But I think for me, I don't believe that fair trade exists, even though people are doing quotations, what you call fair
Mm.
trade. And
Yeah.
the reason I say that is that within the context of capitalism, the person that has access to the market already has power. And I think very often people, when we talk about capitalism, colonialism, and racism, people forget that it's really about power, right? One, it's
Facts.
about who has the power to name, right? Who has the power to benefit, who has the power to credit or discredit, but more importantly, who has the power to tell the narratives and who has to tell the narrative and who's been telling the story. And within the context of Africa as a continent and South America as a continent, because of the histories of imperialism and colonialism, you know, most European, I don't want to put all European countries in the same because it's not the same. It's right. It's the colonizing European countries.
Yeah, you don't want to generalize everything.
Generalize, yeah, but the colonizing European countries, we can name the France, Spain, etc. They are the ones with the power, right? They're the ones with the market. And so when you're from a country like that doing business where whether you're sourcing coffee, whatever it is that you're sourcing, it can never be fair because you can never compensate the time and the energy of an African farmer because the African farmer is a librarian. They are a plant and knowledge like historian, right? The depth of knowledge that they have about their environment, about sustainability, about their seed, the seed saving system that they've had to be able to save and preserve the seed for us to be able to buy that quality food, you can never compensate the farmer for that, right? And so your compensation for the farmer is based on the market value. It's not based on the farmer's time and energy, it's just based on, okay, what's the price of coffee at the market and how much do I buy it for?
Yeah.
And the reason I say that fair trade isn't fair is because the prices of raw materials are always shifting, but the prices of the value add is fixed. For instance, the price of coffee is the same or goes up. You get a fresh press, you can get it for $2.50, you can get it for $3. But the price of raw coffee beans shift. Right. If you go to buy a chocolate at the grocery store, unless it's a Dollarama, it's typically around the same price. $1, $1.05, $1.50 might go up depending on the brand or the bar, but the prices of cocoa shifts. So while the value add price never goes down, who's benefiting at the value add? Do you know what I mean? But the raw materials constantly negotiate up and down, and who's benefiting there? Who's losing, right? So within the context, yes.
I just want to say, like, I know earlier on you said about how the farmer is a librarian. That one just hit me in the chest. I was like, ooh, I've never heard that one before. Like, you know how rich knowledge. That's a good one. I can't.
Yes.
That is that's absolutely like beautiful in the way you put it.
But they really are. And I think for me, you know, the narrative of North America, because that's who's telling the story, is to always present the African continent as inferior, you know, as other, as this scary place where folks are still in the dark ages, you know, as a place with less civilization. But in comparison to what? And in comparison to whom, right? And in comparison to like whose livelihood and whose standard. Meanwhile, this is the continent where all raw materials come from. You know, we can most of the what is it called? Not the mineral, but the iron or I forgot the name for the metal that's used in our phones. If it wasn't coming from Congo, we all wouldn't have our cell phones. So there are many moving parts for me why I will say it can never be fair trade, because you can't if you want to compensate a farmer fair enough, compensate them at the market value, not at the raw value, you know. Give them more than what the asking price are, but typically people want to pay them less than what the what is it called, the minimum wage is in a particular country, which is not fair.
And I think that's absolutely true. And you know, it's like, it's even little stuff like, you know, ecological agriculture, like, you know, those are things that's kind of just disappeared. Like it's been changed for like stuff that involve a lot of heavy machinery, you know. It's like machines are now doing the job for us, and farmers, you know, they may not be able to do like, you know, the stuff that they do, and they're kind of being replaced. It's like substitution in a way. And like it's just amazing how all of this is just transpiring so fast and so rapidly that, you know, and I love how, you know, you just said it straight up, like fair trade does not exist. I mean, there would have been someone that's like, well, you could be optimistic. Like, no, sometimes you just got to say the truth and say like,
exactly. And I think, you know, in a lot of spaces, because we're not being honest, we're not able to do the work. The reality is a lot of commercial farming actually does not feed the world. Sorry, large scale industrial commercial farming is
Right.
not feeding the world. It's 80% of small scale farmers that are feeding the world. Where I currently am, Bolgatanga, most of the farmers are they're feeding their household because first, whatever they grow, they cook at home, they preserve at home, and whatever is left, they're selling. So they're
Hmm.
not really buying, they're feeding their family first, right? And
Yeah.
then whatever is left, they are selling to the market. Whatever they sell to the market, if you're in the community and you're buying locally, right? When
Yeah.
it comes to large scale farming, it's typically monoculture. If it's monoculture, it means you're growing one crop. So if you're growing one crop, you're likely growing one crop that it's a cash crop that you can sell. There's an existing market for it. If you're growing corn, soybean, wheat, or any of the cash crops, most likely those crops are used for animal feed because you can grow them very cheap, right? If you're using the genetically modified seed and using chemicals, most likely it's for animal feed. And if
Right.
it's not for animal feed, it's being used as a preservative in food or mainly in a flour that is sold for people that may be doing large scale cooking or whatever that case is. So we know that corn syrup is used as a preservative and a sweetener in a lot of foods now. So yeah, it's really the small scale, and we need to stop saying small scale farmer because it's really that farmer. They are the farmers, and
Yeah.
they're the ones that are feeding
It,
the world.
it's not small scale. Like it's well known. It's just the
Yeah,
problem is no one's
yeah.
trying to educate themselves. Everyone just kind of wants to say that, oh, all this comes out of a factory or all these big giant CEO corporations. Everything. Like, it's like, come on, man. Like, are you even
Mm-hmm.
like stepping out your house and trying to like see what's going on, or even trying to do your research and just like you're just gonna believe everything that's being said? And again, it's like you said, the power comes from the narrative as well. And like there's so many outlets that all these like, large companies have, like saying things like, with ads and everything on social media, how they can promote it and then leave, and what people are saying, small scale farmers like below the radar. But really they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that
Mm-hmm.
work. They are the foundation. Like if anything, these tech companies are like, the filler.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't understand. Like and again, maybe it's just because people are not aware and again information kind of dispersed and travels in a different way, so others aren't able to gain access at it. But if this is something that interests like people who are listening, then like you need to like just do your research or
Yeah.
get to know more.
Yes, I feel like in North America, like we're spoon fed, right? And we're bombarded with so much information that before you get the time to process, there's new information, right? If you ever scroll Instagram or any social media platform and you're not aware, by the time you realize you spent an hour and you don't even know where the hour went, you're like, whoa, because there's just so much information, right?
Yeah.
Hitting you left, right, center, corner, up, down, that you're just not even able to absorb. And so, a lot of us are not sort of present. We're not present. We're not aware in how we live life. We're just, life is just so much that we're trying to be efficient. We're trying to be productive. We're trying to show up for ourselves. We're trying to secure our retirement. There's so many things that we're trying to do that we're not even aware of what's going on in our stomach. What are we putting in our
Right.
mouth? What are we eating? We don't even have time to process those things because there's so much happening in terms of just trying to make you through day by day, and especially for a lot of people trying to make you through day by day financially, right? Figuring out where the next paycheck is coming from. But it's for me, it's really important that we take our stomach back. That's what I call it. We take our farmland back, and we become more aware of where our food is coming from, and because that's one of the most important activity we do every day, to eat so we can survive, right?
Absolutely. And I know you've been in Ghana for the longest while and like I know you're probably having so much fun like just being there and just experiencing like like the people there, the culture. So have you been able to like travel to like other places, probably get to see where other places were growing food, just to kind of expand what you're doing with your brand as well?
Yes, I plan to go to Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina, and maybe Zimbabwe before I come back to Toronto.
Wow.
I was supposed to come back this June, actually. This month was when I was supposed to return, but I sort of looked at the just what happened with COVID and everything else, and for me it was like what am I supposed to be doing? Kind of asking those existential questions, right? Not so much what is the purpose and calling of my life, but more around what do I need to do now? You know, like what is the value of my time now? What is the value of my energy now? Because very often when I ask what is the purpose and what is the calling, it's too big and it could really overwhelm a person. But for me, it's so much, what is the value of my time now? What is the value of my energy now? And what do I need to be doing now? And for me, it's telling these narratives, right? I think that the African continent is being erased. A lot of African Black stories are being erased.
Yeah.
And it's being erased because it doesn't fit the capitalist narrative. A lot of indigenous ways of being and seeing the world is really nature-based, is really collective-based. And capitalism is anti-nature. That by its nature, by its existence, capitalism exploits nature. So those two just can't coexist. And I think very often people may not understand why Black people, so African or people on the continent or indigenous people have a problem with capitalism or with white supremacy, because that way of seeing the world literally conflicts with other people's way of seeing the world.
Yeah.
And it really denies other people's way of seeing the world, their livelihood, right? And their ability to really want to live naturally or with nature or with how they were raised within their cultural or ethnicity or traditional perspective.
Right. They don't.
So capitalism is very.
They don't share the same views.
Worldview, exactly. And so the worldviews are constantly butting heads. And I think it's so imperative. There's this story I was reading the other day about this guy. He has a breeding company. I forget, a seed breeding. He traveled to Mexico. He bought a bag of seeds. Okay. And this is actually what's happening in the world. He bought a bag of seeds randomly in Mexico. And he liked the yellow pea seeds. He took the yellow pea seeds into the lab and he genetically modified the yellow pea seeds. I forgot what variety that is. A Mexican, I don't know if it's a pea or bean. I think it's a bean seed, the yellow beans from Mexico. He genetically modified it. And then he got a patent to make it his own. So once you get a patent to make it your own, it means no one can sell it, no one can import it, no one can modify it, no one can do anything except if they buy it from you. You're a white guy. You're not Mexican. And you went into someone's country and went and genetically modified their food and made it difficult for them to import, export, and access food that is a part of their culture and tradition for 100 years. How is that even?
That's the definition of like the power of capitalism right there.
And that's what's happening. It's happening with teff. And teff is an Ethiopian grain, and we have someone in Europe who's trying to patent it. And that's what's happening in the world. And I feel like a lot of us are so blind that a lot of these things sound crazy or they sound like conspiracy theories, but it's actually real and it's true.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Like,
yes.
And I feel like I just want to throw caution out the wind. Like, I don't know if this is just me, but like when you see like a lot of social media, like influencers who travel to like, these countries like Ghana, and they try to, experience like the culture and like the food that's growing there. I always wonder in the back of their mind, like, are they going to like do some like scheming or like behind? And if it doesn't have to be social media influencers, it could be anyone, who probably has like a business mentality to like go in there and just kind of like, see what's going on and say, okay, what could I take away? It's kind of like the stuff we're doing. It's like research, it's like you're going in, you're kind of doing this political agenda behind, but you're also trying to be friendly, but obviously like there's always like there's always a shade covering.
Exactly. So what I've started here with locals, no organization, no one else, because I was born in Bolgatanga, is we started a seed saving group. We want to save and preserve indigenous African food. What I want to bring is a set of principles that guide how people can utilize indigenous seeds, just like what we've done with the research partnership. Obviously, the African continent is big, 52 countries. I can't cover it all, but I can start where I'm at, within the little region that I'm at, to make sure that we're preserving our seeds. And there's a set of principles. So people just can't travel, because anyone can travel. Like, can you and I just sort of come to North America and grab a seed and modify and call it our own? No, but white men can do it. And it's so disturbing because there's money and there's power. Yeah, anyways, it gets me off.
It's not even no, it's a hell no. Like go back. Just go back to where you came from. Just like
exactly. And so
Wow.
who tells the story and who tells the narratives? And why have we all bought into a particular narrative of life or a particular narrative of health and wellness? And why are we not challenging or grappling that there can be other alternatives? And what
Mhm.
are those other alternatives? And what do the other alternatives look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely crazy. But I want to get a little bit more into the documentary series that you've kind of been doing recently, Living the Ancestral Way, you know? So like I've seen you make posts on your Instagram and everything, and like it looks so intriguing and so interesting for sure. And like I just want you to go into detail about that.
Yeah, so I honestly, since I would say 17, when I came to Ghana, prior to starting Adda Blooms, I traveled a bit. I traveled and, would meet farmers that, like I said, were just knowledgeable, were just so brilliant. And I was like, oh my God, I would just love to come for a year or 2 years just to document, traditional African food, farmers, just sustainable housing, just people just living life in a way that is just so intricate, with life itself.
Yeah.
Didn't get the chance to, but last year when COVID happened, I just reevaluated a couple of things and I quit my full-time job. Loved it, had a great team at work, an awesome manager, but I felt like this was the time to do it. So I
Hmm.
just quit my full-time job. I took a plane. One, I came for my health because my health was pretty bad. But when I got here, I realized this is the opportunity to start the documentary series. So it's a short 15-minute series, really highlighting farmers that are growing food organically, just people that are really doing great things. I won the documentary one to tell the narrative of African indigenous way of life, but I
Yeah.
also want the documentary series to be a counter narrative to what we typically see on the mainstream North American media,
Hmm. Facts.
for the different African countries within the one continent to be able to tell their narrative. So within the documentary series, I try to minimize myself as possible being there
Yeah.
and try to focus more on the main subject or the farmer, whoever we're interviewing,
Hmm.
as much as possible. But there's so much life, there's so much living, there's so much joy, there's so much colors. And I want to bring all these, the greenery, the sun, the beautiful faces, the laughter, the food, the earth. I want to bring all that to
Beautiful.
yeah,
That's absolutely
to the
beautiful.
series.
I'm honestly now wondering, like, I know you said you're supposed to come back to Toronto. I mean, I feel like with all of that stuff happening for you right now, like, why would you even be thinking?
Right? Yes. So I'm extending the stay, and it's just finding, yeah, yeah, extending the stay. So we'll see where things go.
Yeah, for sure. And for everyone listening, I'll definitely leave a link so you guys can go check it out. And like, I just want to say, Apida, like, outside of work, like I've seen you've been doing your thing, especially with your brand. And, like I've even seen, I check out the IG page and like, just the different stuff that's been posted. Like, I kid you not, it's amazing. All of this stuff that has been growing here, stuff that people may not see on a regular basis, and you can only see on a farm, other things that people use to make cook with, and it's amazing how just the cultivation there, it's just so it puts you in a mood where it's like, wow, it's like, how do we not see this more often? Farming, especially in an urban setting, is very rare. It's a reason why it exists in more like open spaces, more rural communities outside. And yes, that's why in Toronto you ain't gonna see something like that. Like, you might just see a Black Creek community farm, and that's it. That's pretty much everything else. You'll see factories and all these big companies trying to use like GMO, try to like modify foods and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then once it gets placed in the store, like you could even tell, like, I just get the vibe like, okay, this doesn't feel natural. Like one week the produce is looking like this, the next week it's literally night and day, and it's like, it's not to say that anything's got better, just like there's no consistency. And it's just it's mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I encourage and I urge people just, there are also many organic farms in Ontario. Google them, search for them, visit them, buy directly from your farmers, find them, support them. You may not be able to shift what your entire plates look like, but I think it starts from awareness and education, just being aware of where your food comes from and just seeing what farmer is close to you in your province, in your city, and seeing who you can support, even if it's one ingredient at a time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I think that's about it. We kind of talked about everything. And like, again, I just want to say I'm really glad to have you back on the Safe Room for talking about your brand and everything. And I just want to let you know, like, we are supporting you here. We are supporting you in the stuff that you're doing. Like, I definitely think, there needs to be more people doing this type of work that you're doing.
Yes, thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for having me on the Safe Room. It was fantastic to chat with you. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Keep pushing. And yeah, I'm proud of you too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you want to let people know where they can head to your brand?
Yeah, I'm on IG, so you can find Adda Blooms, ADDA Blooms, or Living the Ancestral Way. You can also go on YouTube and find the series. We drop a video every weekend, Living the Ancestral Way, and also my website, Abena Offeh-Gyimah.com, to learn more about food, farming, equity, and so forth.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Absolutely. I'll definitely put those in the link. And ladies and gentlemen, for all the people listening, go check it out, please. Like, definitely take the time of your day, check it out. Like, Abena, every time you drop something, I'm always there. I'm always ready to like check it out and just see everything, because I feel like I'm learning stuff like every single day. And like, I feel like I'm more cautious about the foods I eat. Not to say that like I'm about to just be on a restricted diet and probably starve to death. I mean, but like, it's good to know more and know better about the stuff that we eat. So I just want to say again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be dropping 2 episodes this week. I mean, Abby and I were supposed to do it last week, but she had problems with her network. Things happen, but we're here now. So I will be dropping 2 episodes this week. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.